Pannun. Now, Bharat has immediately said that it is cooperating with the United States on charges levelled against an Indian national in the plot to kill Khalistani terrorist Gurpatwant Singh Pannun, who resides in New York City. Top sources have said no such individual was working with the Indian intelligence agencies as was being claimed by the US. Sources have further stated that Indian intelligence agencies do not hire any hitmen. Sources also have questioned if VIKASH Yadav, the individual named by the US, could have an issue with Pannun at a personal level or an individual level. It is important to probe where is this individual and what is his problem with Pannun. Pannun is spreading hatred and speaking against Bharat on a regular basis, and his team are regularly burning the tricolour, insulting Bharat. The individual must have had some individual issues with Pannun because of his conduct, top intelligence sources have told CNN News 18. The way incidents of Indian flags burning have been emerging, some individuals have made it a personal fight against Pannun, as we have noticed in the recent past. Burning of Indian flags and protests have been taking place in front of the consulate in the United States on a regular basis, and this might have disturbed this individual, just like it's disturbed some others, intel sources added. The government is clear that no terror activities by any Indian intelligence can take place because that is not a matter, or that is not something that is state policy, or they do not indulge in this. That's what the government sources believe. Our security affairs editor Manoj Kumar Gupta getting us these details. And there's more. This man, Gurpatwant Pannun, ladies and gentlemen, is a terrorist, a goon, a trafficker, a criminal supported by foreign agencies to defame Bharat. He's an ISI plant in the US who spreads hate with his Khalistan, and his narrative suits some US agencies too. Bharat is pushing for Pannun's extradition on an urgent basis, as many cases are pending against this terrorist. He is Bharat's most wanted terrorist. He is currently in the United States. There are non-bailable warrants issued against him by the courts of our country. There is an Interpol Red Corner notice against him, and he is accused of orchestrating attacks and protests. He threatens Indian consulates and diplomatic missions worldwide. His banned organization, the SFJ, is involved in such incidents like targeting the UK, US and Canada missions. He is accused of promoting terrorism and separatism. He is charged under sedition for allegedly promoting anti-Bharat sentiments. He is accused of spreading hate speech. He is charged with promoting enmity online, charged with spreading hatred online. Also, Gurpatwant Singh Pannun, leader of the banned pro-Khalistan group Seek for Justice, who's been designated a terrorist by Bharat, is being funded by Pakistan's inter-services intelligence, and there is confirmation because he was there inside in London at the Pakistan High Commission. According to top intelligence sources, the numbers he gives out on Khalistani referendums too are fabricated. Initially, Pannun had denied his association with the ISI. But then recently he attended the Pakistan High Commission Kashmir Day event in London, sources said. He is running an immigration racket. His idea is to instigate youth who are born in Punjab and who are from Punjab post 1984 against Bharat over the alleged atrocities against the Sikh community. A majority of the youth from Punjab, all they want to do is migrate or some way get an entry into Canada or the United Kingdom or the United States, and Pannun is using them as free labor and also as mercenaries. His idea is to attack leaders, the map of Bharat, the flag of Bharat, said sources. According to intel sources, the ISI has approved this plan. Despite spending a huge amount of money, Pakistan has never won any war against Bharat, be it 65, 71 or 1999. However, by just spending $20,000 on Pannun's propaganda war against Bharat, they are getting big results as far as their own narrative is concerned. That's what intel sources are saying. Pannun is also raising money from innocent youth in trying to facilitate their immigration into Canada and trying to get donations in the name of this entire proxy war that he is waging. He has made all Gurudwaras of the UK, Canada and USA breeding grounds for anti-India sentiments. Imagine some of the Gurudwaras are even basically going against the tenet of Sikhism, where beyond the 10 Gurus you are not supposed, and Guru Granth Sahib, nobody is supposed to be worshipped. And they are putting pictures of Bhindranwale, putting guns and arms there and forcing people to go ahead and bow to that and also donate there in those donation boxes. Now, according to a witness, ISI operatives are regular visitors at these Gurudwaras. Sources have also said that Pannun's actions serve ISI's purpose in Bharat too. In the name of spoiled sentiments, they create overground workers or OGWs along the border areas in Punjab. and send drugs, weapons through drones from Pakistan regularly into these areas, which is also a major source of earning for junior level ISI officials, Intel sources said. Also more news coming through. Intel sources have also told CNN News 18 that Gurpatwant Pannun is a US citizen and he is misusing his accesses to the UK, Canada, Australia, etc., where he is committing acts of terrorism against Bharat, acts of secessionism against Bharat in multiple countries, and the fact is that he is not being held accountable. The Five Eyes are also not taking any action despite Bharat's repeated requests. Money is being transferred from the UK and Canada for the killing of RSS leaders and other netas on Indian soil. Evidence has been placed already in front of the authorities of these nations. Pannun insults Bharat's flag, threatens diplomats in front of local police in the UK, Canada and the US, but there is no response from them. Look at what happened in London at the US, at the Indian embassy. And Pannun was instigator. In Australia, Pannun was instigator. In San Francisco, in New York, Pannun was the instigator and he led it and he encouraged them to do this. He even announced rewards standing in foreign soil on whatever is happening in India, trying to ensure that there is a certain level of vandalism, arson and acts against Bharat. So why is such an individual being backed and why is he being hailed as an activist / nationalist is a big question, ladies and gentlemen. Terry Mileski, author with us, Raymond Vikri, Senior Associate Wadhwani Chair in the US-India Policy Studies with us, Ramneek Singh Mann with us, and Sarah Al Gates, author and Hindu human rights activist, joining us. Sarah Gates, thank you very much. Late evening in Australia, early in the day in the US. Thank you very much to the lady and the gentleman on the show. My first question to Raymond Vikri is that this is a person who, and Terry Mileski will actually back me on that, is not even a Sikh nationalist or he is not even asking for Punjab lands. He is only asking for portions of Bharat which are strategically important to Pakistan and to China. Is the US not aware of this? Why would the US be okay with a US national actively propagating secessionism and separatism of another country, that is Bharat?
Well, thanks very much for having me. I think this is a very serious matter. The United States and India are two greatest democracies in the world, and we have a very close partnership, and we must not allow these kinds of situations to harm the cooperation which has been effective against terrorists around the world, whether they be in Pakistan, whether they be in the US or elsewhere. Now, there is a situation here which points out the difficulties that democracies have in regard to their covert services and control of Secret Service and how it works. Now, you have laid out the case against this fellow in New York. If he is violating law, there are means for extradition. There are means for activity. You have said that there is no action being taken. The question then is, does India think it has the right to come in when there's a difference of opinion about someone, whether he's just exercising First Amendment freedoms in terms of advocacy, even though you may not like that advocacy? Is there a right to come on to U.S. soil to murder such a person to prevent that? I think the Minister of External Affairs, Jai
So
Shankar,
what will be your position, Raymond Vikri, on David Coleman Headley, a US national, and Tahavur Rana, a Canadian citizen, who masterminded, plotted the 26/11 Mumbai carnage? What should Bharat say to the US and Canada with a US national and a Canadian national directly involved in the mass murder of 166 people in Mumbai? That includes American, Israeli nationals, including and Indian nationals.
Well, you're talking about now the terrorist attack in Mumbai, and certainly the United States and India have worked to try to bring to justice the terrorist.
Has David Coleman Headley been extradited? Has Tahavur Rana been extradited? David Coleman Headley was in touch with officials, intelligence officials. So should we assume that US knew about these 26/11 attacks and US was directly involved since he is a US national? And Canada was directly involved in the 26/11 masterminding of the attacks along with Pakistan. Should we make a statement like that?
No, that's just not right, that the United States and Canada were involved in trying to in that terrorist attack. That's just not true.
So how is what is you? No, Raymond, with due respect, how is
murder somebody in the United States? No, you don't have that right to come in.
So US has the right to go ahead and take down Ayman al-Zawahiri in Afghanistan and say they've done it for a greater good of the world.
You have to make some distinction between who your friends are.
So US will decide, or America will decide how to make that distinction, sir? Why has America not handed out David Coleman Headley if their war is against terrorism?
India must decide for itself.
Has America handed over a mass murder like David Coleman Headley to India? Has Canada handed over Tahavur Rana?
There are methods to try to resolve these kinds of situations, but it is not the case that either of these countries has the right to go into an extrajudicial mode in order to enforce what they think, whether it be the US or India, what they think is justice and in their policy.
But then what is happening with Ismail Haniyeh? What is happening with Yahya Sinwar? What is happening? What has happened with these people? Where is the US's position on Ismail Haniyeh being killed in Iran, in Tehran? Have they taken umbrage against Israel for going into Iran and then taking him down? They have not even asked for any proof. They have not even asked. With due respect, I'm not saying that terrorism and terrorists should be accounted for. I'm not saying that. Where are the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, where America claimed that they are doing it for the greater good of the world? Where are the weapons of mass destruction in Libya? And what is it that they did with Colonel Gaddafi? So I'm just saying, so America has a right to go ahead and decide what's right and wrong, and they can take whatever standards and then they'll go and preach to the world. How is that fair to democracies like Bharat, whose very existence is being threatened, and there are open secessionist agendas that's being run on US soil? So where is the respect for another democracy and another fellow nation? Ramnik Maan, I don't want to, my intention is not to badger anybody I'm just putting out some thoughts as an Indian citizen, as someone who's standing here and watching the world take hypocritic or dual positions on different events. The same Justin Trudeau, Ramnik Maan, celebrates and congratulates the killing of Yahya Sinwar, the killing of Ismail Haniyeh or Mahmoud Daif, whoever are these people. And on the other hand, he says nothing about Ripudaman Malik or Karima Baloch, but he ignores a red corner notice against Niger. His government allows him citizenship and they hail him in the British House of Commons. Niger had a red corner notice. Gurpatwant Pannun has a red corner notice against him, and yet nations like Australia, UK and Canada under security allow him passage. So where is the rule? Where is the rules-based order for these nations, Ramnik Maan?
You can go as far back as you want and you will find the hypocrisy of the West exposed blatantly. Whether it was honoring the Nazi in the Canadian Parliament or addressing to a designated terrorist as an honorable citizen of Canada. I mean, Canada has actually shot itself in the foot a few times over. And I think it's the US's turn now. And like you rightly said, what about Tahavur Rana? What about David Coleman Headley? And these are just a few examples. I believe the hypocrisy of the United States is at its best. They have defined the terrorists as good terrorists and bad terrorists. The Taliban is a good Taliban and a bad Taliban. They would fund, one day suddenly they will wire transfer money to Taliban and say, oh, it just happened accidentally. millions of dollars going to Taliban accidentally, and then they would fly in cash full of jets to the Afghans, to the Taliban, and then they will talk about not supporting terrorism. They will talk about supporting friendly nations, and the big words like we are free nations and we are two large democracies and we have to work together. Well, why do you forget that Pannu is your citizen? He's not an Indian citizen. He may have an Indian origin, all right, but he's a designated terrorist. And as far as Canada is concerned, do we need to remind that there are 26 extradition requests pending, 29 requests for arrest pending, and there has been a very, very aggressive pursuit which has not come in the public domain, I believe, Anand. Just like the Canadians created a fiasco, if India were to go on forward and release a name every day of these 29 people that we've requested extradition for, or these 29 people we've requested arrest for, we can create an equal fiasco for them. But I believe they're addressing to their gallery. They're addressing to their own electorate. Why do we forget that the Americans are going to polls next month? Why do we forget the Canadians
here on this channel, Ramnik Man, here on this channel, Goldie Brar on our network is on, Goldie Brar is a resident in Canada right now. He's on record to say that he's the one who orchestrated the killing of Sidhu Moosewala, a singer, on Indian soil. And there is a letter rogatory, an extradition request, and all the dossiers submitted to the Canadian authorities. Has Goldie Brar been handed over? Has the US said anything to Canada about what they are saying?
Anand,
So a Canadian national is sitting and orchestrating murders on Indian soil, and they have not handed him over. And then they are trying to say there should be a rules-based order, etc. Quite rich.
Well,
then in that sense.
Here is that two wrongs make a right.
No, sir.
Even if what you're saying is all correct, then what
No.
Raymond, with due respect, what I'm saying is those who are in the wrong cannot claim to be holier than thou. Those who have already committed the wrong cannot claim to be holier than lecture.
Just one interjection. Allow me one interjection, sir, with your permission.
What we're trying
It is the answer. With your permission, just allow me one interjection, and then you can answer. Sir. Thank you very much. See, they are trying to arm twist India into submission for favoring US policies, whether it is the Ukraine-Russia war or it's any other global platform where they want India to side and align with their interests and how the US sees the world or how it wants to see a certain situation globally. They want India to be on their side, and they are trying to arm twist India by using the Five Eye Nations. Our flag has been either in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, or the US. I mean, these are the Five Eye countries where this is happening, and blatantly. No action by the government. Why?
My point is that if this was a secessionist activity that was against the US that was being plotted in Bharat, and India was openly encouraging these activities that would go ahead and create secessionist agenda against the US.
Sanctions.
What would have happened immediately? What would have happened? What is Iran facing? What is Iran facing today?
Sanctions.
Has Iran attacked the US openly? But why is Iran facing? So why are these sanctions? So I'm just saying this is quite sanctimonious and rich coming from a certain set of nations that allow a free run to certain elements, and then take umbrage based on how they want to do their arm twisting. Terry Milewski is somebody who's chronicled Khalistani extremism, and the role of this guy, Gurpatwant Pannun, who's been active for a while, since 2015-16, he's been nefarious for his doings and his utterances. Terry, thank you for your patience. Sarah, coming to you after that. Yes.
As bad as you make it sound with respect to Gurpatwant Singh Pannun, it's probably worse. In my view, I followed him for years, and I mean, some of his activities really make you want to puke. One example, briefly, went to the Air India Memorial in Toronto. Names of the dead inscribed on the wall behind it. Make a little videotape of it, broadcast all over. Taking the position that he is terribly sympathetic for these victims who were murdered not by Khalistani terrorists, but by the Indian government. And he is so sympathetic and so concerned for the victim. And it made the victims' families puke to see him there. This is a man who selected the mastermind of the Air India bombing, still, as the poster boy for his referendum campaign. He treats Salvinder Singh Pannun, the Air India bomber, as a martyred hero while he's standing there pretending to be on the side of the victim. It beggars belief. A second point that I want to make is that we do hear a lot of this argument, well, why is the West so hypocritical about, they can go around and kill their enemies, why can't we? Well, I think Indians in this particular matter, one that brings us here today, is about Pannun and the murder of Badi Singh Najjar in Canada. Well, Indians need to decide, are they arguing that, oh, well, look, everybody does it, it's fine, or are they arguing they didn't do it? You have to pick a lane. At the moment, they're arguing two conflicting positions. And a third point, if I may, is that at the moment, India is making that a habit because it is simultaneously telling us that when Canada alleges that an Indian government official was involved in plotting murder in Canada, it's completely different, entirely separate case to the Americans saying that an Indian government official was plotting murder in the United States and in Canada. It's the same plot, people. It's one plot against several targets, and India is trying to pretend that it's completely different. But on the one hand,
Terry,
it's absurd, it's preposterous. But if the Americans say it, oh, we take that very seriously, and we're going to cooperate. So I think what's really happening, final point, what's really happening is the United States and India in cause a geopolitical deal are working their way towards an accommodation. The United States will do what it's doing now, saying, look, we're satisfied with the Indian cooperation, but we're posting a wanted poster of one of your former raw officials who we accuse of being the mastermind of this murder plot in the US and Canada. And so we're not backing off, we're being polite about it, and we're not holding India's feet to the fire publicly. I don't think we will ever see a trial.
See, now here's the thing, Terry. With the Americans, they seem to have, they are saying that they have concrete evidence and that's what they have shared. What Justin Trudeau has based his whole claims on are wiretaps shared by America, which is supposed to be intelligence for Canada to act.
Quite correct.
Canada to act upon. So I'm just saying, four people.
Correct.
1 minute.
Not
sir.
correct.
1 minute. This is all fact. 4 people who are.
No, it isn't. That's
four
not
people.
fact.
What I'm going to say now. 4 people who are since September 2023. Not a single shred of credible evidence beyond that has been shared. That's the MEA's position on record, and they said that only yesterday. The other part. 4 individuals are currently in Canadian jails without trial. And the adjournments, out of 5 adjournments, 4 have been sought by the prosecution, saying they're still reading the reams of evidence. They've not got enough to go further with the trial. And these people have been behind bars without a trial for more than 8 months now. So that's also another aspect. So there's no shred of proof. That's one part. The second part, sir, if India does not have as a matter of state policy or any other to go ahead and take down individuals or persons of interest or terrorists on foreign soil, because then we would have acted against Dawood Ibrahim, Hafiz Saeed, Rauf Asghar, Masood Azhar. There's a whole list not so far away from here. But the idea is that for them to make such a big deal about what's happening with Gurpatwant Pannun, and also with a wanted terrorist like Hardeep Nijjar, who should be persona non grata in Canada, is quite surprising. That a terrorist is being hailed in the Canadian Parliament. That's also surprising. Sarah Gates, you saw what happened in Australia. Gurpatwant Pannun has a red corner notice. Do you think any other individual with a red corner notice would have been allowed passage into Australia so easily?
I doubt it. We've just had Khaled Baidoun. His visa has been, what they said, missed because he had delivered a hate speech in support of a proscribed terror group here. And that was taken quite seriously. Whereas the case of Pannun, he was able to come here. However, he was told not to speak at one of the events because I don't know what reason, but he was told not to make his presence felt publicly. So there was some, protocols being followed, and he did didn't come out in public. However, his, left and right hand men were all here. And as soon as they finished with Sydney, they flew over, as far as I know, at least one of them definitely, because I saw it on his own Facebook. He flew straight over to Canada. So this incident happened at that crossover point when they just finished with Sydney and they were starting up their referendum process in Canada. Now, I don't want to go into the arguments that you've made because I'm not a legal expert, but I did note one thing today on the press release from the US, which says that the persons named are assumed to be innocent until proven guilty, and that they are allegations. So I think it's very important to be clear in our terminology that there are no such findings. Court cases are yet to be run, and this is what we call, the democratic process. So any media that reports, like they did here in Australia, that the US intelligence found that the hitman was approved by the director of the Indian spy service. This is all hearsay. This hasn't actually happened because nothing has been categorically found beyond reasonable doubt. So we're waiting for these processes to unfold, and I think it's really important to remember that this is hurting people all over the world.
Yes, it is hurting
and
people.
We've seen it here. We've seen what they're capable of here in terms of conducting violent acts, inciting violence, creating anti-Hindu hate speech and vilification all over the country. And in the wake of that, we saw 5 or 6 Hindu temples vandalised, and we see the same vandalisation and the same proud ownership of that vandalisation all over the world, in India, Canada, America. Hindu temples are being targeted, Hindus are being singled out, Hindus are being identified, Hindu media, Hindu politicians, your diplomats, they're all being singled out on these hateful videos, and it's violent stuff. What they're doing is categorically violent. They're inciting violence, and violent acts take place. So we know, and even ASIO says it. There is a connection between hate speech and hate act.
These elements are being hailed as activists and nationalists, and that's a travesty.
No, Anand, in the Gurudwara in Surrey, they're going to commemorate Talvinder Parmar as a martyr on 20th of October. So this is going to happen just 2 days from today. So will Canadians act?
A terrorist is going to be done. He's going to be commemorated as and he's designated a terrorist in Canada.
Yes, Guru Nanak Sikh Temple in Surrey. They're going to do it day after tomorrow. They are called for it.
And what is the Trudeau administration going to do? That's the problem, sir. That's where the issue. If you have evidence, against any national, any player, you please put that and prove it in a court of law. Till that time, you can't accuse a government and its people and an entire nation of conspiring. That's what Justin Trudeau has done. He is not providing credible evidence. None of what he said has been upheld in any Canadian court of law till date. And that's where he's made these utterances.
If it's not true, why did India arrest Vikram Yadav?
Where is Vikram Yadav?
Well, they're going to say.
Where is Vikram?
He's not one of ours.
Terry, even now,
Vikram
Yadav has not yet been proven guilty by a court of law in America. He's just one of the charged. He's one of the accused. And India said, if we find him, we'll hand him over to you. But on the other hand, Gurpatwant Pannun, Hardeep Nijjar, Goldie Brar, all of them have red corner notices against them, letter rogatories against them, and their location is identified. And no action has been taken, Terry. No action. 26 extradition requests since 2006. Not a single one of these wanted persons has been extradited or has been handed over. David Coleman Headley, Tahor Rana, still not handed over. That's the level. And these are nations who, without a charge, without a court of law, without a letter rogatory, without an extradition, without a red corner notice, are blaming an entire country and its government.
Just on hearsay.
That's the point. On hearsay.
Should not be handed over.
No, are you arguing that David Coleman Headley should not be handed over to the Indian justice system? Are you arguing that Tahor Rana should not be handed over to the Indian justice system for crimes committed on Indian soil? Are you saying Goldie Brar should not be handed over by Canadian authorities to India for crimes committed on Indian soil, including the murder of Sidhu Moosewala, for which he has personally taken responsibility? He's taken responsibility for even intimidating and firing bullets, getting bullets fired at Salman Khan. Now, will Canada hand him over? Will Canada walk the talk on rules-based orders?
I'll give you a short answer to your question. For about 25 years, I have been arguing Canada has utterly failed.
That's what I'm saying, sir. That's what
to acknowledge the truth of Indian allegations against Khalistani extremists, and has failed to extradite them, going all the way back to 1982.
Agreed.
Father of the present Prime Minister
so that's where, sir,
the Air India bomber 3 years before the bombing. If they handed him over, we wouldn't have had that bombing.
Exactly.
You don't need to lecture me about that.
No, I know. I'm not lecturing you, Terry. I know we are on the same boat on this one. But I'm just saying that's how rich it is when it comes from someone like Justin Trudeau, the Canadian establishment or the American establishment, when they try to talk down and try to talk about rules-based orders, when they themselves are guilty of not doing the same. That's where.
Rich or not, it doesn't help us to navigate a way out of this mess we're in now.
No, but the point is, sir, Canada is overdue by 25 years to act before they even try and lecture India. Let them prove it in a court of law. We've proven it in a court of law. There are non-bailable warrants against these people, and there are letter rogatories and extradition requests. Despite that, they have not handed over. That's where I'm saying where their allegations come from and where our claims come from. I've got to wind up on that note. I have to wind up on that note, but we'll take this conversation forward. Thank you very much to all our panelists. We're going to take a break. But before we go out, members of the Canadian Parliamentary Committee, here's an update coming in from Canada, have called for an emergency meeting on new allegations of Indian foreign interference in Canada as diplomatic tensions between the two nations have escalated through this week. The Standing Committee on Public Safety and National Security is set to meet to discuss the recent developments. Stay with us.